Hello everyone. Amid the constant movement of life, amid days when everyone is busy chasing work, worries, and invisible pressures, there are moments when we simply want to pause for a while, not to escape, but to listen to ourselves, to pause, to take a deep breath, to feel the air gently flowing through each breath, to realize that there are simple things, yet enough to soothe the heart. And it is in those ordinary moments that we begin to search again for a sense of peace, not somewhere far away, but right within our own hearts. Today's story is not something grand, not a journey of dazzling success, but the story of Tien, an ordinary girl, like so many others out there, without a perfect starting point, not born into abundance, without advantages that make others admire her at first glance. Her life has had its empty spaces, its shortages, and worries that not everyone can see. Yet within those seemingly small things, Tien carries within her strength, a quiet perseverance, not loud, not showy, but strong enough that anyone who looks back cannot help but pause and reflect. Tien's morning does not begin with hurried sounds, not with a blaring alarm clock, not with long plans written the night before. Everything comes to her gently, simply. The early sunlight filters through the leaves, shining onto the small garden where she begins a new day. She steps outside, not fast, not rushed, just familiar footsteps, repeated every day, yet never boring. Her hands touch each winter melon, green fruits, still carrying drops of morning dew, cool and full of life. She gently picks them, carefully, as one would cherish what they have patiently nurtured. Not just a product, not just something to sell, but the result of time, of effort, and of daily patience. After that, she brings them to the market, a small market, not too crowded, but enough to create its own rhythm. She sits down in a familiar corner, amid people passing by, endless footsteps, mixed sounds, forming a space full of life. She is not loud, does not call out to attract attention, does not try to stand out. Yet that simplicity makes her noticeable, a very real presence, without pretense, without decoration, just a person trying to live well with what she has. Few people know there was once a very different Tien. She used to fear crowds, fear the eyes of others, avoid communication, and always felt small among people. Crowded places were once something she avoided, not a place where she could sit and start a job like today. Selling, to her before, was not just difficult, but nearly impossible. But today, she is different. Not a sudden change, not something that happened overnight, but a process. Silent, slow, yet persistent. Day by day, she learned to face what she once feared, to stand among people, to say simple words, to look into others' eyes without avoiding them. Each invitation to customers, not smooth, not overly confident, but sincere. Each smile, still a little shy, but no longer avoidance. Within it, there is effort, determination, and belief that she can do it. She sells each melon for 10,000 dong, a very small number compared to what people often talk about income, about success, about value. But to Tutien, every coin she earns is not just money. It is the result of sweat, of early mornings, of overcoming her fears. It is proof of change, not something huge, but enough to make her proud. And more than that, it is a milestone of a journey of growth. Tutien understands her work is not something grand. It does not amaze others, does not bring impressive numbers. Her income is not much, but to her, that has never been the most important thing. Because deep inside, she knows every day she lives has meaning. It is the joy of creating something with her own hands, even if small. It is the feeling of no longer depending, no longer standing behind others, but walking forward on her own. And from those simple things, a new journey is slowly opening, quietly, but full of hope. But if we look deeper behind what seems peaceful, we begin to realize that the gentleness does not mean there are no storms. It's just that those waves are carefully hidden behind those simple mornings. Behind Tutien's shy smile at the small market corner are pressures, silent, heavy, that not everyone can see. Not everyone passing by can understand. Not everyone who happens to notice can truly feel. The life of Tutien and Jack is no longer just calm days, but is gradually entering a phase full of challenges. The difficulties do not come all at once, but stretch out, lingering, forcing them to endure in a very different way. Debts are no longer invisible numbers, but real pressure, weighing on Jack's shoulders. Every day, every hour, no break, no moment of true relief. He has to push himself to keep everything from collapsing, to calculate, to worry, to think about things that he may have never imagined facing before. Each passing day is no longer just a normal day, but feels like a race against time, a race against invisible pressure, a race against his own limits. Even the farm, once a place of hope, where they had placed so many plans, so much effort, so many dreams of a more stable life, is no longer as secure as before. It still stands there, still that familiar land, still the place that once gave them belief. But now, it faces the risk of being let go. Selling the farm is not just a financial decision. It is a trade-off. A trade-off of hope. A trade-off of the future they once imagined. Something no one wants, but something they are forced to consider. Yet among all of this, what makes people pause the longest is not the hardship, not the numbers, not the risk of losing what they built, but the way Tien faces it all. She does not complain. Does not turn pressure into blame. Does not let hardship become a reason to give up. She does not avoid it. Does not run away from what is happening. Instead, she chooses to face it. Quietly. Without noise. Without needing to prove anything to anyone. She stays beside Jack. Not with grand promises. Not with unrealistic things. But with the smallest acts. Sharing little by little. Within her ability. A word of encouragement. A look. A presence. Enough to make the person beside her feel that they are not alone. She understands that sometimes there is no need to do something big. Just not leaving is already a great support. As long as he keeps trying, holding that money in her hands. She does not feel relief immediately, but she feels warmth. A feeling hard to describe, but very real. And in her thoughts, she tells herself, this is not something given without meaning, nor something that puts her in debt, but a loan, a temporary help. And one day, she will return it. Not just the money, but the trust, the care, with everything she can do. The journey ahead is still long. The difficulties may not be over. But in that moment, one thing becomes clearer than ever. That, no matter the circumstances, as long as there are people beside you, as long as there are hearts willing to share, then the road ahead, even if not easy, will always hold hope. That evening, when Jack returned, the familiar space of the small house lit up once again. The light was not too bright. Not enough to drive away all the worries outside. But it was enough to keep a very special warmth. A kind of light that did not only come from the bulb on the ceiling, but also from the presence of two people returning together after a long day. There were no luxurious meals. No carefully prepared dishes. No flowery words. No grand promises needed. Just two people, sitting side by side, in a very simple space, sharing small stories. Stories that did not need to be special, but carried the weight of an entire day. Tien began to tell everything. Not in a rush. Not exaggerated. Just what had happened throughout the day. She spoke about the morning in the garden. About the winter melons she harvested herself. About the small corner of the market, where she sat among the passing crowd. She talked about her hesitant attempts to invite customers. Her shy smiles, yet full of effort. Then she told him about Mr. Huang. About his unexpected return. Without notice. Without noise. Yet enough to make her pause. She mentioned the small puppy. The seeds. Things that seemed ordinary, yet made her feel cared for. And then, she spoke about the money. Not just about accepting or refusing, but about the conflict within her. The hesitation. The careful consideration. The thin line between independence and accepting help. Every word she said was slow. Not because she did not know what to say, but because she truly placed her feelings into each sentence. Jack listened. Without interrupting. Without rushing to give his opinion. Without judging anything. He did not question her repeatedly. did not force her to explain more than she wanted. He simply stayed there, listening, the way someone who truly cares would. When she finished, he did not say much either. No long advice. No attempt to make things easier with words. He just gently, calmly, said one thing. That it was a kind gesture, and they should cherish it. A sentence. Not long. Not logical or analytical. But enough to make things clearer. Not accepting because they needed it, but accepting because they understood its meaning. In that moment, no one said anything more. No need to confirm. No need to repeat. But both of them understood. They understood that no matter how difficult life becomes, no matter how heavy the pressures outside remain, as long as they are still together, everything can find a way through. Outside, life continued. People kept moving. Other stories kept unfolding. And the challenges had not stopped. The debts were still there. Not gone. Not lighter. Just temporarily pushed aside. To make room for a rare quiet evening. The farm still faced the risk of being given up. Still something they had to think about. To consider. To face in the coming days. Nothing was solved immediately. No miracle appeared to change everything overnight. But in that small house, within that seemingly ordinary space, there was something still intact. Something that had never been lost. No matter how circumstances changed. That was faith. Faith is not something visible. Not something you can hold. Yet strong enough to keep people from walking away. Faith that everything will find a solution. Faith that difficulties are not the end. Faith that as long as they do not give up, as long as they keep trying each day, as long as they still have each other, then no matter where they start again, they will keep moving forward. Because in the end, happiness has never been about having everything. Not about having it all. Not about living without hardship. But in the hardest moments, when everything feels the heaviest, there is still someone who chooses to stay. Not leaving. Not turning away. Not letting go. And the story, at this point, still does not end. Not a conclusion, but only a pause before everything continues. What will Tien and Jack choose next? With the pressure of debt still weighing on them? Will the farm truly be something they must let go? Or is there another path waiting ahead? And the return of Mr. Fong, is it just temporary help? Or will it become a turning point that changes their journey? Stay tuned for the next episode to find out what happens next. Don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel, and leave your thoughts in the comments below. See you again in the next episodes.
Xin chào mọi người đã quay trở lại với kênh của mình. Nay thì mình tiếp tục đưa đến với mọi người tập tiếp theo về video quả thử tiên và rắc nha mọi người. Trong video hôm nay thì bị rớt điện thoại. Mình kể về câu chuyện là bố Phượng là bố chồng quả thử tiên. Tuy nhiên thì ông rất là thương Tử Tiên như con gái ruột của mình, và lần này thì ông đến thăm cũng như là cho Tử Tiên một cái món quà, đó là một số tiền thì nếu mà tính ra thì nó cũng khá là lớn. Và ngay trong lúc mà cả hai Tử Tiên và Giác đang gặp khó khăn như thế này thì số tiền này vô cùng ý nghĩa đối với cả hai, giúp cho cả hai có thể vượt qua khó khăn hiện tại. Vậy thì liệu với số tiền này Tử Tiên và Giác có thể vực lại không, và Giác có thể vực lại công ty không, thì mình mời mọi người đón xem các tập tiếp theo ở trên kênh của mình nhé. Và đừng quên đăng ký và ủng hộ cho kênh của mình, cũng như là like video và để lại ý kiến của bạn ở dưới video nhé. Cảm ơn, tạm biệt.